if your purpose and your reason is greater than your goal, you will achieve it.
Everyone wants to work with and for someone they enjoy being around. When I think about leading a life of significance, I don't think about money. I think about all the people that can be changed by the impact that I've made in their lives.
Hey guys, welcome to the Guts and Glory Show. I'm Luis. I'm the host of the show, and we're really excited today because we have a guest, and the guest is Brett Harrison, and he is a personal injury lawyer from New York and has a very unique business in personal injury and a very unique philosophy for managing people. So we're really excited to have you on the show, Brett. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Now I see that you are in Miami, Florida. Very, very sunny over there, huh?
Yeah, I have a place in North Miami Beach, and I come here about 4 or 5 or 6 times a year. It helps. It's where I get my creativity, relaxation, and really look at my business from like a 30,000 square foot view,
Right.
and not focusing on numbers, focusing on creativity.
What's interesting is because part of your business is what allows you to do this. And I mentioned at the intro that you have a very unique business because you run it somewhat virtually. So I'd love for you to tell everyone kind of what is your business makeup? How is your business run? Because it's very different than a lot of personal injury firms.
Yeah, well, so many times attorneys like to complain, and they all complain that we can't find good employees, be it paralegals, be it attorneys, and they just hire to fill the seat.
Right.
And I found that when you hire to fill the seat, you're actually going below your standards. You're
Right.
just saying, this is good enough. And for me, that concept, it's good enough, reminds me of the government. Well, we thought we'd lose 10 million, but we only lost 14. It's good enough. We
Yeah.
got the job done. And that to me is about being average. And it's very easy to be average. Just do what everybody else does. Complain about everything. Don't look for solutions. And I found that if that's your standard, you've lowered your standards with yourself, with your clients, with that promise you've made to yourself. Because to me, it's good enough or average means you're, as what they say, average is the top of bad and the bottom of good. Is that what you're about? Is that the standard you set and accept for yourself and for others? No. To me, you got to give 120. You got to give 100. You got to win. And what does that mean? I can't run a law firm, be successful by myself. I could win a race, but I can't win a championship without a team. And for me, I realized, well, if one of my standards in my firm is that greatness or excellence is an expectation, not a goal.
Mm-hmm.
And when
Yes.
you set that standard high enough, well, then now you have to define what that means to win each day, win each moment. So how do we do that? You have to do it in personal injury. You need staff, but you need your staff to be believing in you. And it all starts with you. Do you believe in what your standards are? Do you exercise doing those standards? So for me, I found, look, for my staff, I like to do, I call it a 1-3-1. And this is what I did to myself. If there's an issue, I want who's ever coming to me to say, here's the issue or the problem. What are 3 solutions? That's the 3. And what's the best solution? And when you make a decision, man, go for it. There's no second guessing. You've made that decision. Now go with it. So I did the same thing to myself. What's the issue? Staff. And then I said, okay, what's the 3 options? I can suffer. I can do what everybody else does and just fill the seat, or I can be creative. I have that ability. So through some connections and through some hard work and going back and forth, I was able to work out something in Bosnia where I hired college graduates and we trained them
Right.
as paralegals. I even sent staff there for 30 straight days, man. That's a commitment I make, man. And let's do it. Let's do it. If you're going to do it right. It's just as easy to do something wrong and have regret, or do it right and get it done correctly and see results. So you have the pain of regret or the pain of reward. Either way, choose your pain. So from that, I was able to hire the best people here in the US, keep the best people. I have people for 9, 7 years, 5 years. And when you have the best people that, and what I mean by best is that they believe in your system, they believe in what you're trying to accomplish, and you see them, and this is where I think I'm different. I look at people for not as they are, because that's what they'll be. I look at people for what they can become, and that's what they will become.
Right.
So, and that's my responsibility to help them grow. And I think too many people in the legal field, when they have staff, they're like, they focus on the wrong thing. I call it, for lack of a better word, the Copernicus effect. Copernicus means he focused, the world revolves around him, me. When you start with that assumption, you will never have a good staff. You will never have complete buy-in. Then it's luck. The world doesn't revolve around you, the attorney, the owner. The world revolves around your staff. Without your staff, you have to constantly keep updating and training them. And as you always talk about, Luis, is you have to always update and make better your systems, your processes, and so forth. You can't just be stale and stagnant. So I guess that's a very, very long answer. And I'm sorry for that.
So how did you find these people in Bosnia? Because I think that's what makes it very unique. You know, when I hear about virtual assistants or virtual workers, we think really in two categories, and that's letting our US based staff work virtually, or hiring people generally from the Philippines or Mexico. I had never actually met anybody who had hired people from Bosnia. So how did you find those people? And then what was, in your mind, what was the difference?
Okay, the big difference is a lot of virtual assistants, and you're hiring another company where these people work for all these different people, and you're not in charge of training them. So I got in touch with some college professors that are bilingual, and I wanted all college graduates. So we interviewed them for their ability to think, their ability to reason, their ability to communicate back and forth, their ability on a computer. I put them in an office. We spent plenty of time training them, and they're actually on my computer system where they have assignments. So what happens is that because I have 7 people from Bosnia, and they've been with me some 3 years also. They now started training other people. But so I said, let's make this system great. Let's teach them everything that my paralegals here know, so that they can set up they can take away a lot of that busy work that our staff here has, because they're dealing with phone calls. So things that you and I think should take an hour could take a whole day, because they're dealing with different phone calls. Here, the other side is undisturbed in Bosnia. So they'll do the beginnings of cases, they'll email clients, they'll text clients, they'll get all the medical records, they'll summarize every medical record, they'll do all the beginnings of cases to insurance companies. They'll set up different medical packages that we review here. I want my staff to focus on what I call higher thought and moving the needle process. So I said, how can I keep, from a business standpoint, my labor ratio low with the highest quality of work, highest standard, because we can get to every client. And that's what I've done. I've created a system where when they're overwhelmed here, they have assistants in Bosnia. So they could actually focus, my staff here can now focus on the client. And when you could focus on the client and show the client that you care through constant communication, through not just a consultation, and then when you settle the case, it's over. Those are the only two. I focus on not consultation, strategic planning as a case evolves. And my staff is on top of them at every step. Our goal is to relieve that stress from the client.
Right.
Their fears, their frustrations, because it's client-centered, not me-centered. Without clients, we don't have a firm. And they all have to understand that. And clients, to me, in this age of social media, are one of two things: an ambassador to your brand. And so, or let's be honest, they can be a terrorist to your brand.
Right. Right.
All because why? Because you didn't pay them attention. You didn't listen. And as you talk about many times in our conversation, it's about value. When they perceive they have gotten value from you, they don't question your legal acumen. And they don't question your legal acumen because you're showing them throughout this time that you care. You're listening to their fears, their frustration, their wants, their needs. And
Mm-hmm.
that's your job as an attorney. That's the way I see it.
And the thing is that the client really benefits when you hire the best people, going back to the issue of the people that you wanted to set a standard that was high and you weren't willing to compromise on the type of people. But you mentioned something that was really interesting, and that was this labor ratio. One of the things that I teach at 8-Figure Firm is that we need to have a labor ratio of 37% as optimal, maybe 40%. And a lot of people go, that's impossible. There's no way to do that. My labor is 55, 60%. And what you're illustrating is that it's absolutely possible if you become creative and you try to stick to that. So what has this done for your labor ratio? Because you're like fully staffed. So you mentioned 7 or 8 people in Bosnia,
to most people, I would be overstaffed.
Okay.
Not to me.
Yeah.
But because to me, it's what labor ratio does for me and having the right staff. Well, first off, when you start with that it's impossible, your mindset is that it can't be done.
100%.
Okay. When you focus on mindset, I think you're focusing on doubt. There's 4 levels of mindset: doubt, hope, believe, and know. I used to say, like everybody else, I doubt I can find somebody. I hope I can find somebody. When your plan is hope, you're a hope addict.
Right.
And that really, look, I'm not green. I'm not a freaking leprechaun. So that ain't going to work for me. So once you realize you're not a leprechaun and you're not on hope, let's plan to win. How do you do that? You have to be creative. Go outside of the box. And that's what you need to do, and understand what your labor ratio will do for you. And labor ratio, to me, is about defining winning. Defining winning for each of your staff members is about defining your key KPIs, and saying, okay, this is what we have to do. But certain KPIs to me don't show up. What doesn't show up is you can't put a KPI for caring. Okay, so to me, and this is where I think I started to realize something. It took a little while for me, to understand it. I'm 57, so obviously a long enough time, is that most people have a different version of ROI. They say I look at my ROI leads to ROI. Most people's ROI is return on investment. That's an end game.
Right.
I look at return on intention leads to return on investment. And what I mean by that is when your reason for doing something is bigger than your goal, ROI, return on investment, is about money. If that's your end game and that's your goal, it's not as strong as when your purpose, your reason for doing something is there. For me, my reason is a lot larger. I use money as a vehicle to achieve my goals, to achieve my contribution to other groups, just like you have the Bader Scott Foundation, which I donated. You're looking at money to create money, not just for your family. That's great, because you have goals for them, how they should save, how you're setting up future generations. Just like in your family, I'm the one in my family to change my heritage, the way my family has been for the last 300 years. So I want to take the money, help not only my family, help all my staff's family. I want to know each member of my staff. I want to know about their goals professionally, personally, and financially. Maybe I can help them. But I also want to take that money and contribute it and give it back to society in other ways where I can show what being a leader is, what being a leader is not. And it's not just about me, me, me. Money is meant not to be in a reservoir where it just grows stagnant. It's supposed to be free flowing. Put it out there. Put it out for good causes. Help. We're not here just to pay a mortgage, pay a car note, pay school. If that's all you're about, man, you're missing life.
I agree 100%. Now,
so what that money does and those systems do, and what you teach us as well, is about creating freedom and freedom of time, because time is something you can't get back. Whether you're Warren Buffett, you can't say, I'll give you 20 million, give me an extra 10 years, you know? And I have yet to find a hearse when somebody passes away attached to a U-Haul truck of money. It doesn't work that way. So if your purpose and your reason is greater than your goal, you will achieve it. And that's how I look at it. I wake up every morning knowing that, look, I don't need an alarm, man. I have my wife, I have my 2 kids. I want to be the best husband. I want to be the best me. I want to be the best boss. I want to be it all. And to do that, man, I have to have a purpose and intentionality every day. And when you have an intentionality based on action and discipline that creates habit, that's what wins. And that's what you have to teach your staff. They have to buy in. So you're always internally marketing to your staff as well. You can't forget your staff.
Yeah, they need to know that you're fully committed to the business. You know, you're hitting on so many good things that we don't even have time to really hit it deep because there's so much depth to what you're saying. If you had to narrow down for the listeners, the one thing that you believe made you successful, or maybe the one thing that created a barrier for you that now you realize, but you've overcome it to make you successful, what would that one thing be? The very, like, this is one thing. If I just did this one thing, my entire life has changed because of it. What would that one thing be?
Well, I guess it's a combination. It's learning to listen to feedback. And so many times people get in their own way because of, I don't know what psychologists call it, I guess, ego. Because people always want to be right and always want to fight. So a lot of times, especially nowadays, criticism can be tenfold, 20-fold because of social media. So we often tend to dismiss what we don't like. And we just say, that's because they hate me, they're haters. That's because who's the messenger, right? But really what you're doing is you're continually imprisoning yourself. You have to look past the messenger, your ego. You have to look past the way it's said. You have to look at, is there truth? Is there any shred of truth in that criticism? And when you could say, looking past that, and you say, okay, I don't care how it's said. I don't care whether they have their reason for telling me this. If there's some shred of truth to it and I can learn from it and I can improve, that's the key. Can you constantly be improving?
Yes.
Because once you stop taking the advice, it's just like if if you take it from a broke friend or a broke cousin, they give you financial advice, you're like, look who it's coming from. But yet, if Warren Buffett gave you the advice, well, wait a second, is there a shred of truth there? Don't just so dismiss it. So once you learn how to accept criticism, now understand criticism isn't there to validate you. It's there to improve you. Validation, you don't need other people for. If you need people for validation, then we have a belief problem in yourself. But moving past that, because to me, validation is for parking tickets. Not for I don't need people to validate it. So that's the one kind of way I would say I've learned and evolved, is understanding, is there a shred of truth that I can improve, not to validate.
Awesome. I love it. Well, this has been good stuff. I appreciate you, Brett. I know you're always dropping gems when we're having our conversations. This time has really flown by. I appreciate everything that you've shared with us. I think it's going to be a lot of value to our listeners. If people needed to find you in New York, they have a personal injury claim, where could they find you?
They can find me at hlgny.com.
hlgny.com. We'll make sure we put that in the show notes. Brett, thank you again. I appreciate it. And thank you for listening to the Guts and Glory Show.
Thank you.